Hello, dear audience. I greet you to my presentation, Homeopathic Support for Healthy Soils. Many thanks for inviting me again to this HomeoSummit 2024. First, let me give you a short introduction of myself. My name is Cornelia Maute. I am grown up in a little village in the south of Germany, and that's important. I'm also grown up with the theory and the spirit of homeopathy since my childhood. My mother Christiane works as a homeopath. But how did I come on my way to treat plants or to treat soil with homeopathy? About 20 years ago, my parents began with studying and observing plants in their house garden, plants that have been treated with homeopathy. In 2011, the book Homeopathy for Plants was written by my mother Christiane, and meanwhile it's translated into, I guess, 11 or 12 languages. So from this point on, my curiosity was aroused. The treatment of plants had a great fascination on me, especially when I started with caring about my own garden. So I began to study homeopathy and also plants. Meanwhile, I work as a co-author and I am leading a consultant service. And 2 years ago, my own book has been published, but it's only available in German language. Unfortunately, who knows what will happen in the future. All in all, we could say that this story began in the household garden of my parents and spread among amateur gardeners, farmers, fruit farmers, wine growers, and so on. We collected our own experiences and those of other users. This is unbelievably exciting. As I am a very curious person that loves learning, I finished my education for the veterinary homeopath in 2017. What you will see during my presentation is how homeopathy is able to give a good support and also healing on your soil in your house garden. All living beings show reactions after a homeopathic impact or treatment. So it's clear that also soil is able to be treated with homeopathy because soil is a living being. So this is the disclaimer which I have to show you also. Take a look at this for a few seconds before we start the lecture. Before we start watching the topic homeopathy and soil, I would like to share some important information about soil and some very interesting facts, because there are many useful aspects besides the homeopathic treatment of soil. Whoever took a closer look at the topic soil and its capacity will recognize quickly that we deal with much more than just brown crumbs or mud or simple garden soil. It exists a real science about soil. Let's look at the different layers and how soil is compounded. The organic layer is the area where seeds germinate. The layer below is up to 30 centimeters deep. That is the fertile layer called topsoil. Close to the surface, usually the soil has a dark brown color. And this is also the layer where we do digging and where we plant on. And it's also the main area where plants are rooted in. This layer is very, we'll say, active because there is the most biological activity. The more oxygen soil contains, the quicker the process of decomposing of organic materials will be done. Is soil only dirt under our feet? It's clear that the answer is no. Just imagine, but I guess that no one can imagine this really. In one handful of healthy soil, there exist more living beings than human beings on the whole planet. Let's have a look who lives there in secrecy. We should consider the soil under similar aspects as we consider a living being. It is a fact that the soil is a living organism. A huge amount of soil contains valuable bacteria, algae and fungi, like you see it in the circle on the right. This is the blue and the red part of the circle. The rest are worms, macrofauna, and microfauna. Plants have a symbiotic connection with the soil. In a healthy and fertile soil, there are innumerable species who contribute to the balance between plants and soil. Most of these very important species are invisible. They are microscopically small. A lot of these species and the cooperation between them is not explored very well until now. There are micro creatures and single-celled organisms and fungal filaments who communicate with each other. What we know is that they also support each other. They provide the absorption of nutrients and they protect each other to get infected by diseases or by pests. They react very sensitive on every influence from above, and they tend to bring the system back into a balance which follows its own rules. As this biotope is not explored sufficiently, we should avoid every influence that kills parts of these species. So the main issue what we have to keep in mind is to look at it in its entirety and in an integral way. So we stand on it, we walk on it, we clean our shoes after walking on soil. But soil is our most precious resource worldwide. It is not renewable, it is not regenerative. That means what is destroyed stays destroyed. And it takes 100 years until the development of 1 centimeter mother soil. Soil is our most important carbon storage, and soil has to be vital because soil is able to absorb carbon, and on the other hand, this carbon keeps it fertile, so it's a circle. It's important to know that since middle of 1980s, 1/3 of rangelands, a quarter of farmland, and a quarter of forest ground got victims of erosion by wind or by water, of oversalting, compaction, and intoxication. Another fact which I don't want to ignore is the use of glyphosate. Some facts about glyphosate. Glyphosate is the most sold plant toxin worldwide. It's mostly used by farmers, and in 2017, 1.35 million tons of glyphosate were sold. Where do we see the treatment with glyphosate? It is visible under these grape plants, where the weed is brown and dead. Did you know that glyphosate is also applied in high doses on industrial-used fields, lanes, and places, on railroad tracks and airfields? But also for your house garden exist more than 50 various products that contain glyphosate. So it's worth to read the small print on all products you want to apply to your plants. It's known that glyphosate destroys soil life. It also stimulates pathogenic fungus. It impairs the absorption of micronutrients. It creates resistances. It creates residuants in urine of humans and animals. It damages the root system. It's toxic for fish, amphibians, and other aquatic organisms. It decimates biodiversity in sort of that it reduces food availability for birds and insects. And it's under high suspicion to cause cancer. So nobody can imagine today how the consequences will be in 20 or 30 years. Meanwhile, many countries confessed the danger of this product and don't allow the use anymore. How can you judge the quality of your soil without ordering expensive laboratory experiments? It's quite easy. First, you check the consistency. Is your soil crumbly, malleable, sandy, compacted, or hard? Second, take a deep breath like this dog does. Of course, I don't advise you to catch a mouse or search a bone. Your job is to check if the soil has a pleasant smell. But what means pleasant? Every bad and rotten smell is a bad sign. If you forgot how good soil smells, you should go on a trip to the next forest. Dig with your hand into the forest floor and learn how healthy soil should smell. The natural smell of a humid forest ground is a good thing to train your nose. Point 3. Another funny but very interesting idea is to bury your old cotton pants. There are fantastic videos on YouTube with the instruction to soil your undies. It's important that they are made of cotton. And after about 2 months, pants should have transformed into a skeleton of fabric. This is a good sign that your soil is alive. And point 4, if your soil shows poor results at point 1 to 3, then it's time to support it with mulch, with compost, with activated biochar, or with sheep's wool. This is how healthy soil should be. You will find round structures and also little holes. There are several living beings like worms and other small animals. There are also many fine roots and a pleasant smell. There is one creature that is invaluable to any soil, the earthworm. This tiny animal works mainly in the topsoil, where it helps to decomposite organic material. Its tunnels go down to the bedrock. This brings aeration and distribution of water. And its excretions are a superhumus. It contains a 7-fold amount of nitrogen, a 3-fold amount of potassium, and twice the amount of lime compared to normal garden soil. The earthworm also builds soil. 1 kilo nutritious excretions are built on 1 square meter per year. That's quite a lot. And it helps to reduce harmful fungal spores and pathogens. And it's an excellent team worker with fungi, bacteria, mites, and microorganisms. Of course, if you work so hard like this tiny worm, you need good food. Mulching helps the worms in their work because they pull plant parts into their tunnels, where microorganisms then decompose the coarse material into the ideal worm food. Because after all, the worm has no teeth and needs prepared food. So they help each other and work in a team. How can we support soils with good nutrients? There are excellent organic fertilization methods. One option is the fertilization with sheep's wool. This method is a long-term fertilization. Sheep's wool has good nitrogen content of 10 to 12%. It also contains phosphorus, sulfur, and potassium, which are good for heavy feeders. Further advantages are there is a better moisture retention and a better soil structure. If you are a happy gardener and the owner of a compost heap, there are simple rules how to add compost. Deep digging disturbs the microorganisms, and that means that not the spade is helpful to bring oxygen in deeper layers, but worms and other tiny animals and microorganisms do this job for you. With deep digging, these microorganisms get to other layers where they fight with inadequate pH value or with different light conditions. This might destroy them. So the advice is flat, soft chopping is sufficient for adding compost. So with this method, the soil life will not be disturbed. Mulching is important on small areas also as on large fields. Let me explain some details about mulching. There are still gardeners, farmers, and fruit growers who don't know enough about this doing. But why is mulching necessary? It's necessary for a healthy, well-fed soil, and it avoids compacting and compressing. Nude soil is missing nutrition, is missing shadow and microorganisms like bacteria and so on. Mulching brings ventilation and more oxygen, and the humus concentration will rise from 5 to 7%. It's a better absorption of water, humidity remains better in the soil, and there is less additional manure required. This is a little house garden, and we see that erosion also occurs caused by water. On the left, we see a soil which is not mulched. Minerals and microorganisms are washed off from rain and perhaps wind later on. Then, after mulching and planting cover crops, the soil isn't naked anymore. It's protected and also nourished. This is a soil of our friend, the fruit grower Thomas. The summer of 2018 was very hot and dry, and I guess we will have many more years of hot and dry summers in the future. What he did was mulching the soil between the rows of his fruit tree area. Checking the situation in August, he recognized that his soil was soft and moist instead of this long period of heat. Other soils in the neighborhood were hard, compacted, and dry. And again, another evidence how mulching improves the root penetration. On the left, we see soil which is compacted and hard. After only 1 year of mulching, the structure is way better with more roots. Roots of plants reach deeper, where they can absorb water also during dry weather periods. And this is filled with beautiful violet phacelia, also called scorpion weed. Do you also see a difference concerning color and green? And so guess what? Where is the borderline between compacted and loose ground? I can show you the result. This is the blue line. The quality of these two areas is very interesting just by looking at the vitality of the plants. Okay. So our next chapter is named Soil and Homeopathy. Homeopathy is able to support the absorption and use of nutrients and minerals. Homeopathy also is able to support a balance between them. We can treat the naked soil with homeopathic remedies because we consider soil as a living being as well, and now you know that. And of course we can treat planted soil, and both will get a benefit by our treatment. Let's learn how to bring the power of homeopathy to soil and plants. The application is quite easy. First, you choose the adequate remedy and let dissolve the globules in a jar with a lid. This makes shaking easier. Then add the mixture in a watering can and stir with a stick. You're almost ready. Just water the soil with the homeopathic water. It's also possible to use other techniques to water the plants like spreaders and so on. After use, just rinse the tool with clear water. This is the dosage table for homeopathic remedies and the application on plants. I marked the most common amount, 10 liters, in red, because this is the size of a common watering can. I also added the dosage for pills because some homeopathic remedies in some countries are available as pills. Mainly the low diluted remedies are pills. So this dosage table contains both the dosage for globules as well as for pills. And please consider the measurement is just about. The information gives the impulse and not the exact amount. If you need some basic information about homeopathy and plants, I recommend to watch my introductory course at Naturopathic CE. We start with concrete homeopathic remedies and their application in case of detoxification. The use and application is quite easy because you just water the area of your soil you want to clean. The listed remedies are in general remedies that have effects on the cleaning and excreting organs like the kidneys or the liver in human treatment. Until today, we have experiences with these 4 remedies concerning detoxification of soil and plants. The first is Camphora C30. It gives a reset. It's a first application before other remedies. Second is Nux vomica D6. Third is Solidago C30. And number 4 is Sulfur D6 or D12. Please notice soils that have been contaminated over years cannot be healed within a few weeks. It will last some years to revive the soil and bring it into a constitution of a natural fertility. We take a closer look on number 1 of this list, on Camphora C30. The most important thing about Camphora C30 is it helps resetting. For the soil, for the function of detoxing and resetting, is the main interest of choosing this remedy. If you have less information about the quality of the soil, and if you have the supposition that the soil is polluted in any way, this would be the first doing. The application of Camphora on highly intoxicated soils is 2 times with a pause of 2 weeks. And if you want to use Camphora as first remedy before some subsequent remedies, the first application before other homeopathic remedies is approximately 10 days apart. So wait 10 days after having applied Camphora C30. Our next important remedy for soils is Nux vomica. It's an important remedy for detoxing after the use of pesticides. But please, don't be pointless. You should not use pesticides without limit and think you could erase the negative effects just simply with the homeopathic treatment afterwards. This doing is not responsible at all, but Nux vomica could be used if you want to clean an area of which you don't know what happened the years before. Example given after you bought a garden or a plot of land. Also, you could detox the soil if you used a lot of pesticides in the years before. And if you are on your way to manage the system more holistic and organic. Our third remedy is Solidago C30. It's a remedy produced from the goldenrod, and this remedy is good to apply after any overdose of fertilizer. It works as a draining remedy. As you know, overdosing of fertilizer can cause severe damage on plants. This remedy will support the plants and will help to regenerate quickly. Also, after salinization, Solidago is the good remedy, for example in regions near the sea. And our last remedy in this row for detoxification, Sulfur D6 or D12 is the best remedy for cell cleaning, also after the use of toxic substances. And similar to Solidago, it has a draining effect after toxic substances. The use and application is quite easy because you just water the area of your soil which you want to clean. We have the possibility to do a special preparation for the soil depending on what your soil needs. The first remedy, Belladonna, is able to bring warmth into the soil. The second, Carbo vegetabilis, also has cleaning effects, especially on fungal pathogens, and also supports the microbial soil life. And sulfur C200 helps to reduce soil inhabitant pests like caterpillars. As said before, belladonna is a remedy for warmth. It's a warmer for soil and compost, brings warmth in the system. And how does that work? Quite easy. For example, you can water the compost heap with belladonna C200 water in order to accelerate the rotting process. Or it's also a good idea to water cold soil if you are planning to sow or to plant. And with the preparation of belladonna, you prepare the soil in order to bring warmth into it. And the planting or sowing can start. Our next remedy is a very important remedy for soil because the origin substance comes from the soil. The remedy Carbo vegetabilis is made of charcoal. The effects on soil are fantastic because it activates microorganisms, it works disinfecting, and it helps to dam fungal pathogens in soil. So let's create a team of 2 remedies which work together in a very good way. This is an effective treatment for soils which had problems with fungal diseases or soil-living pests. These 2 remedies go hand in hand, and we called it the Maute CS cure. Both remedies can work in a team and prepare the soil before sowing or planting. They work preventively. Carbo is disinfecting and helps to bring new vitality to the soil. It supports the soil life. Sulfur brings the information of the strong smelling sulfur into the soil, and many pests like caterpillars and more don't like the smell and probably will disappear. This is the recommendation of applying the remedies. So there are 4 alternating applications. First day, Carbo vegetabilis C30. 4th day is sulfur C200. The 7th day is Carbo vegetabilis again, and the 10th day, this is the last day of this row, is sulfur C200. It's a good idea to apply on soils which had problems in the recent years. Also, soils with problems like fungal infections should be prepared with this carbo-sulfur team. You can start about 2 weeks before sowing or planting will begin. Our next topic, number 3, is fertilization. How can we support the nourishment of soil and plants? There are 5 remedies which are important. This is calcium carbonicum D6, kalium phosphoricum D6, magnesium phosphoricum D6, magnesium carbonicum D6, and magnesium chloratum D6. The first what you see is all potencies are low diluted potencies in D6. These remedies do not replace a good organic fertilizer like compost or any organic product of a garden market. Plants need real and good feeding, and homeopathic dilutions just bring a balance between offer and absorption. Several remedies of the mineral row will help to support the absorption of nutrients very well. I guess it's not a good idea to mix all together and apply in the matter of a lot helps a lot. And if you try to find out the needs of your plants, which nutrition is necessary to grow healthy, then you could choose the matching remedy according to these needs. For example, cabbage needs a good supply with magnesium. So it would be a good idea to give it a kind of homeopathic fertilization. I would like to recommend a special trio of minerals for all heavy and medium feeders to support the absorption of nutrients from the soil. How to do that? The first remedy for heavy and medium feeders is calcium carbonicum D6, kalium, the second is kalium phosphoricum D6, and the third is magnesium phosphoricum D6. These are the remedies. You apply them one after the other in this row, and you should apply them 3 days in a row with a pause of 1 week. Example: on Monday you apply calcium carbonicum, on Tuesday you apply kalium phosphoricum, and on Wednesday you apply the third one, magnesium phosphoricum. Then wait 1 week and repeat this row in the next 2 weeks. That means the same in week number 2 and in week number 3. Then most of the support is done. There are some examples for heavy and medium feeders. For example, tomatoes need a lot of nutrients for growing healthy and good. Also cucumbers and leek and rhubarb, peppers, broccoli, eggplants, cabbage and potatoes, and some more. And also the medium feeders will benefit from this support, from this homeopathic support. And medium feeders are spinach, lamb's lettuce, beetroot, lettuce, kohlrabi, carrots and onions. Of course, your soil should contain sufficient nutrients. Homeopathy helps to provide these nutrients and bring them to the plants. And this trio of minerals is especially good for tomatoes. My recommendation is to start the treatment when the tomato plants are about 20 centimeters tall. With this treatment, they are less sensitive and develop less brown rot or other problems later in the season. Well, we're at the end of this lecture, and I say thanks for your attention. I hope that you got an idea about this great brown mud under your feet and how to treat it well. If you are a gardener who loves plants as well as homeopathy, or if you are curious how to manage your plants and garden organically, plus with the great support of those little white globals, I invite you politely to watch my full course at Naturopathic CE. Have a good day and have a good season with your plants. Bye bye und auf Wiedersehen.